So remember, when you're flexing their head around, resist the temptation that I see a lot of people do of trying to jerk on the horse's head to make them give. Okay? The more you bump on their nose in the beginning, the more they'll want to resist you. Pick up and set it up and wait for them to give. Now later on, once they catch on to it and they know how to give, if they lean on it, then I will bump them off it. But in the beginning, I'd much rather set it up and wait for them to give. If I can get the horse to think it's their idea to soften to the lead rope and let them think their way through it, they're going to give a lot quicker. If I start jerking on them and make them give, I can certainly make them give, but I'm going to have to bump on their nose all the time to make them keep giving. And that's not what I'm looking for. So keep that in mind, mate. Let's talk about some horse problems, mate. When you first teach your horse how to flex, yet again, they're probably not going to do exactly what you want them to do. That's not unnormal when you first try something or you teach your horse something new. The most common problem that horses give you when you try and teach them how to flex is when you slide your hand down and ask them to give, they're usually going to be real stiff and they'll usually want to back around, they'll usually lift their head and neck up, they'll back around in a circle, they'll really pull on you. Now some horses, especially young stud colts and so forth, when you first start teaching them how to flex their head around, when you bring their head around towards the stirrup, when you drop it, they may bite at the stirrup a little bit or go bite at their belly. Just kind of ignore that in the beginning. A lot of horses will do that actually if you hang on to them too long rather than releasing them when you should release them, because they're a little frustrated because they're giving and you're not recognizing that. Wait till they give the appropriate amount and then instantly drop it. Do not release slowly like this. Release it and drop it out of your hand like something just burnt you. The quicker you release, the quicker they'll get soft and supple. Well, mate, sometimes you can be trying your best, but there still seems to be some trouble. Here's a good troubleshooting idea for you. If your horse just doesn't seem to be getting it, there's a couple of things that are probably going wrong. Number one, you may be asking the horse to bend too much, like you're literally trying to pull their head all the way around. If you've got a big old stiff old horse, you're not going to be able to physically make them bend all the way around. So ask for a little bit less bend. You might only ask for 10%, but as soon as that horse gives, okay, you immediately release it. Depending on how stiff they are and how long they've been like that, you won't ask for a lot of bend. You might just ask for that. I'm just going to wait here till she gives to that. Nearly, a little bit more. I'll tighten it up a little bit and just wait for her here. And some of these old horses will just kind of lean on this. You just wait for them to figure it out. And the other major mistake that people make when they're doing this with their horse is that if you don't release quick enough, your horse will get frustrated because he feels like he gives, but you're not giving him there. You're not giving him the reward he's looking for. So if you release slowly, he'll just drag that line through your hand and keep rewarding himself. You want to reward him. You don't want him to reward you. So probably you're asking for too much bend, you're not recognizing a give and releasing quick enough, and if you're doing those two things wrong, nothing will really work out. So concentrate on getting those two things right, and you should be in pretty good shape. I've been working with China now for about 5 days, just working on the lateral flexion with the halter. She's getting a lot lighter. I want to get her to the point that as soon as I slide that hand down, she instantly brings that nose around towards her girth. Pick up. Now at this stage, if she does lean on it, I'm going to bump it off her like this, there, until she softens. In the beginning, we just pick up and hold, but once the horse understands the concept of give, if they do happen to lean on it, I'll just bump them off it, okay, and make them feel a little uncomfortable. That's what I'm looking for right there. Is as soon as I go to pick that hand up, her nose follows that. Good girl. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you always do on the other. So every day when I put this halter on, that's the first thing I do now. I do it at least 7 or 8 times on each side, is flex her before I even take her out of the stall. This is just a remember who's in control exercise. Excellent. Good girl. Now what we're going to do is put the bridle on our horse. I recommend in the beginning stages, especially if you're dealing with a young colt or something, you can just take your halter off and put it around your horse's neck. Drop it off their nose like that. Keep it around their neck. So that way if the horse goes to give you any trouble or they go off, you can kind of pull 2 eyes back towards you. There's nothing wrong when you're bridling a young colt to leave the halter on and put your bridle on over the top. Put it on and off, and you might bridle them and unbridle them 10, 15 times. And then when you go and you feel confident, you can put it around their neck and then put it on, okay? So now we're going to put our bridle on. I've got my halter around the horse's neck. The lead shank is over my arm like so. I'm going to put the reins over the top of the bridle like that, okay? Get them out of the road. I'll put my right hand over the top, and I put my right hand and have it so it sits between the horse's ears like so. I get my left hand and I position the bit like so. My left thumb is on the inside of the mouthpiece and the other side of the mouth is between my two fingers like that. Basically then what I do is I put my left thumb in their mouth, and when the horse opens his mouth, I lift the bridle up with my right hand. See how I lifted that up? You do not want to push the bit in with your left hand. A lot of people try and do this and try and cram it in the horse's mouth like this. Put your thumb in. If when you put your thumb in the horse's mouth, if they don't open their mouth, rub the roof of their mouth with your thumb and just make it a little uncomfortable for them not to open their mouth. When you get it up here, change hands, push this ear forward, push this ear forward, and then slide the bridle over like that. Okay? Then you've got everything ready to go. You can adjust your throat latch here. Usually I don't want the throat latch real loose, but I don't want it real tight either. I want it so that there's still plenty of room underneath it, but if it went to fall off, if the bridle got hooked on something, the throat latch would actually help the bridle stay on. Once I'm at this point, I can take the halter off if I feel like I have pretty good control of my horse, and by this stage of the game we should. Okay. Now it's real important of the adjustment of the bridle, okay? A lot of people want to know how tight to adjust the snaffle bit. So that's what I'm going to go over right now. Years ago, the theory was, as a general rule, you want to have 3 wrinkles in the corner of the horse's mouth when you put the bridle on. I disagree with that completely. Basically, I don't want to have the bit pulling on their mouth, and I don't want to have it hanging out of their mouth. I want it right there. So years ago, the theory was to have 3 wrinkles. Well, if you've got 3 wrinkles in the horse's mouth, that bit's pretty tight in their mouth. That means the horse does not get any relief of that bit in their mouth, okay, because it's constantly there. So when I adjust it, I want to have it so there's not quite a wrinkle in the horse's mouth. I don't want him smiling like that, and I certainly don't want it hanging down like that where it's an inch down from the corner of the mouth. I want to have it so I feel like it's just there. Now, some thoroughbreds and horses with bigger gums and lips, especially if they're a little older and so forth, they might have what you call real loose type of lips. And they may have maybe just the start of a wrinkle there. That's not too bad. I just don't want to have it so my horse is smiling, okay? I have a leather curb strap that's underneath the snaffle. I like to use a smooth snaffle for pretty much 99% of my training. What I'm going to do, we can do in a smooth snaffle bit. The leather curb strap only stops the bit from sliding through the horse's mouth. If the horse would try and open his mouth, the bit wouldn't be able to slide through because the curb strap would stop that, okay? And the rein setup I'm using is what you call a McCarty reins. It's a loop rein here, and then the end of the rein is to use for your groundwork, or you can use it as a spanker to encourage the horse to go forward, and you'll see that through the series as well. So now that I've got the bridle on and I've got it adjusted, we can move on from there. If you're having trouble bridling your horse, you may want to go back and follow the exercising for control tapes and teach your horse how to lower his head to pressure. If you remember, we taught the horse how to lower their head, and that'll help you out in some of those problems, okay? So now, we've taught the horse how to flex on the ground with the halter. Now we want to teach him how to flex his head and neck with the bit, because when we get on, we're going to ask for the same thing.